Hi guys! Welcome to Muse and Music. My name is Vika and you know Pedro over here from many of my videos, but finally I got him for an interview.
So my name is Pedro. I was born in Brazil and I started playing guitar 10 years ago. I went to MI for a year, and while I was there I played with over 10 different artists, and I was also fortunate enough to have my own debut as an artist in a scholarship concert that was judged and awarded by the jazz legend Stanley Clarke, also with the participation of other giants such as Frank Gambale and Stuart Copeland.
May I also say that you graduated with an Outstanding Guitar Player Award.
I did.
Congratulations for that!
Thank you.
So today we're gonna talk about how to get a gig, because Pedro over here is playing all the time with different people. He gets hired over and over and people keep calling. So I got him here for an interview to tell you guys how to be an outstanding session player and how to get a gig and how to keep going and keep working. Tell us.
Well, the first thing, it's very important to know that to get many gigs, you need to be as versatile as you can be. And for me personally, I think that you shouldn't sacrifice being the artist that you feel you should be. So what that means is you need to have a very wide range of skills, but you also need to have a personality, because there are many gigging musicians that can be anything, but they don't have their sound. And I feel like if you don't have that own, your own thing, you're just gonna be a worker of music. And for me personally, and everyone is different about that, for me personally, that's just not what, the point of music is.
Getting gigs, step 1, the building blocks.
Alright, so I had the privilege of being able to study guitar while I was still in high school. So it was really good because I was able to take essentially a whole year after I was already studying, just graduated high school, before I started college. I took that year to just practice. I had an audition in mind, I knew what I needed to study, and I just wrote down a schedule, had a plan, and in that phase of life, I guess you could say the artistic professional life, whatever you want to call it, it's very important to develop the skills you know you're going to need later. So first of all is vocabulary. You need to learn, if you know you're going to be a session musician in Nashville or New York or LA, which in America are the big cities, you can sort of guide yourself to that. So if you're going to do Nashville, for instance, the country market there is huge. So if you want to move there, learn jazz, blues, all that kind of stuff, which is you're going to have to play anywhere, but focus on country also, vocabulary, learning phrases, learning songs, learning, turnarounds, stuff that you're going to play at any jam session. Just have, in Brazil we say cards up your sleeve. I guess you can probably say that anywhere, actually. But if you're going to go to New York, then you need to learn, I guess, more jazz. I don't know how much blues they play over there, but that kind of stuff, laid back, groovy stuff. If you're coming to LA, learn a lot of rock standards, learn pop, learn, I guess LA, it's really what sells more. So, take a year, build a schedule, learn reading, learn writing charts. It's super important to know how to make a professional looking chart, because I know that for me, I really love when I get to a gig and I already have the charts, but that's just not the case 90% of the time.
Yeah, and when you get hired, it's like sometimes they don't have the charts for you and you should actually sit down and write all the charts.
And it takes a long time, learn the software. I used to love to do it by hand, but if I do it by hand, if I make a copy, the pencil doesn't come out right. Maybe I wrote something wrong and the other person doesn't understand my writing. It's complicated, so learn the software also. I take a lot of time, actually more time to write the song than to learn it sometimes.
Do you have a name of the software?
I use a free one called MuseScore, but the best ones are Sibelius, Finale, and there's another one, but they're all paid. So you can manage with some free ones.
To start out, it's fine to do the free way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can find there are really good softwares out there. I use one that's called MuseScore 2, and it works for me so far. So yeah, writing charts, reading, like I said, vocabulary, getting your chops up. Honestly, work on timing. Timing is the most important thing. You can play as fast as you want, you can know all the complicated chords, but if you can't play in time, it doesn't matter how good your solo chops are. As a guitar player personally, people just don't care if you can solo. as much as they care if you can just make things sound good. It's like, it just doesn't matter. Because if you're gonna be a gigging musician, you're not gonna be a solo artist, you're gonna be a backup artist. So what that means is if I join a band with Vika, she's not gonna have me soloing all the time, she's gonna have me playing rhythm guitar, playing a little funky part, playing chords.
Yeah, and I think most of the time, if the artist is paying you, he cares about his music and how you help him to get the song right.
Exactly. And also, you know, understand what it is to play ahead of the beat, play behind the beat. It's really hard because these are feel things. If you don't play with really good musicians that can sort of make you feel it, it's hard to study by yourself. But if you can understand it in a studio session, you can just sort of, you can make it work. I guess that's kind of it, you know, just get the building blocks. And you take a year for preparation. Your goal right now is improvement.
Step 2, getting out there.
Okay, so getting out there. Now that you've done the year, you've gotten all your, all your time put in, you've gotten all your skills. It's important to change your focus from improvement, to maintenance. Now that instead of practicing 6-7 hours a day, you're gonna practice around 2 hours a day if you can, and just get out there. Find the venues. For Vika, it's gonna be a lot different than it is for me, because for instance, she's a vocalist and a rapper. So you need to find the places that are gonna involve the kind of music that you want to get into. Of course, it's good to have variety, but you need to start somewhere. So find the places, go to gigs, hang out. After the show is done, don't just go home. Stay, talk to people, find out.
Networking, a lot of networking.
Exactly, yeah. And I don't know. As an artist, what would you like after a gig someone to do to you? To ask you.
After I perform?
Yeah.
Well, I would like to hear an opinion. I would like to hear some good words. It's always we talked with Tyler about that in the episode with Tyler, that he said that in his release party after he performs, it's super important to go to the people and to communicate with them and to make them remember you. So the same for you is when you finish your gig and you're trying to get more gigs, try to talk to musicians, try to talk to people, try to find out if they're performing soon, and maybe go to their next show so they will remember who you are, your face, and they saw you playing. So you have way more options now because they might hire you.
Exactly. And if you just go to a gig and you didn't play and you talk to an artist, don't go like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm a guitar player. Do you need a guitar player? Just...
Yeah, no, that's annoying. That's like, oh, listen to my music.
Yeah, it's annoying because it's like, you just had a gig. You don't want to, it's kind of your me time a little bit. It's like, oh, I just had a gig. I want to pipe down, just chill a little bit. And it's, I haven't heard you play, or I haven't heard you do what you do, so don't come after my gig asking me to hire you, It's better to know people, go to, like, I don't know, maybe if there's a specific artist that you want to get involved with, doesn't have to be necessarily playing for them, but just, get to know them, hang out, whatever. Just, get to know them and hang out.
Yeah, get to know the person.
Exactly.
Don't try to look for a favor or what can he do for you, or, stuff like that. I think the very important thing of networking is if you want to build a really good base in communication, try to see how you can benefit them. Don't be selfish. It's the worst thing in networking. People don't like to hear that. People don't like when people just coming for them and just trying to use them in some way. So when we say networking, we say connect with people. So networking. Let's talk about social media.
Yes.
What's there?
So it's super important for you to know that even though you've been practicing all over step 1, you've taken that year off to study, and now you're networking, it's no use if you're an amazing musician and no one knows about you. One thing that helped me a lot in MI is like it's a small community relatively. If you compare it to LA, it's like 1,000 students maybe or something like that. And word of mouth is really big. It helps a lot. I started getting gigs in my first quarter there because I knew one person, she recommended me to another person, and then that person, it just starts growing. And it's really something to be grateful for towards these people that spread the word. But honestly, you can't depend on that anymore because the internet is so big, it's overpowering almost everything.
Everything's there.
Exactly.
Everything. Like, if I want to check you out, it's like, even if I recommend you to a person, he will tell me, okay, can I have his Instagram?
Exactly,
Probably
yeah.
it's gonna be, can I have his phone number? No. Probably it's
No.
gonna be, can I have his Instagram?
Exactly.
And then he goes through his Instagram and he wants to see how he's playing, right?
Exactly. The people want to see how you play, how you look, because also if I don't know, if I give Vika a phone number of a guitar player because I can't do the gig anymore, she's not gonna call him like, hey, what do you look like? How do you dress? It's like, you know, social media
Play
is there.
something for me.
Exactly. Instagram is useful in these situations because the artist can check the person out and decide if he even wants to call them or not without having to waste the other person's time and waste his or her own time. It's super handy. So you need to have, even if you don't post every week, which you should, even if you don't, make sure that what you do post looks good.
And if you wanna have some tips on how to build your profile on Instagram, I have an episode about that and the link is down below. And I'm talking about how you want your feed to look like, what do you want in your bio and everything to make people actually understand by just going to your profile, who you are, what do you do, and how you do it.
Yes, and she also has an amazing episode on visual identity, which helped me a lot, and I didn't even expect it.
Thank you. Moving on, step number 3. What to do on a gig.
First of all, what I think is really important is to set the details like in stone before you get the gig as much as you can, because these things just changed. So, for instance, if Vika hires me for a gig, I'm gonna ask her how much she's gonna pay me if she is, which is fine if she isn't, you gotta know that it's a personal thing. If she's gonna pay me by rehearsal or not. The transportation to the gig, backline, if there's gonna be any gear, you know, the length of the set. Do you have anything else you think?
I think what I wanted to say is don't be shy about it. Don't afraid to ask those questions, because if you it may happen that you will play for a sneaky artist, you know, and in the end of the gig you will come to him and tell them, oh, so like, are you paying me? And he will say, nope, we didn't close it, we didn't talk about it, so, you know, basically fuck off because you already played and, you know, it doesn't matter anymore.
Honestly, just have a contract, because there's no risk of you forgetting anything, your fees are all there, the person won't be suspicious like, oh yeah, but my friend told me that you charged the other person this much for that gig and now you charge me double. It's like, no dude, my fees is this, you know, and these are my conditions. Rehearsals, getting late, getting early, all that kind of stuff that happens, but you need to be prepared, because while you really do want to serve the artist, because that's what it's about, it's a mentality of serving. You want to push people up. You don't want to get yourself up on top of them, you know? But still, you got to take care of yourself, because that's just what it is.
It's a job. It's a job. You're working.
Exactly.
And you need to get paid for your job.
Exactly. No one works for free, so why should you? Okay, so now you've set everything apart. You've signed the contract. It's a done deal. You have the rehearsal date, and you have, let's say, 6 to 9 songs that you need to learn in a week. What I usually recommend is make up a schedule, have 3 songs a day, 4 songs a day, something like that, for you to learn them, chart them out, and leave the last 2 days for just practicing the set. So you don't have to worry about, oh yeah, I gotta learn a song for rehearsal today, and if you don't learn it, you gotta waste rehearsal time practicing a song that, you know, it's just because you didn't learn it, so then, you know,
terrible.
It's horrible.
It's terrible. If you come into rehearsal and you're unprepared, especially if they paying you,
exactly,
that's a terrible reputation to have. If I'm hiring someone and I know that I'm paying him from my money, and as a beginning artist I don't have much, and I'm putting it in you, and you come to rehearsal showing me that you're unprepared, that you didn't learn the song, it's disrespectful. I'm not gonna call you again. Ever.
Exactly.
And I'm not gonna recommend you, so you basically just ruin your networking that you were building this whole time.
Yes, and reputation is something extremely hard to build and easy to lose. So it's really a delicate subject, you know. So don't learn songs in rehearsal. If you do have a song that you're not feeling comfortable with, be honest, because we're all human, you know. You need to try to be as perfect as possible, but at the same time, don't blame yourself for not being it, because it's just not what human being is about.
One thing that I learned in the business world is that nobody cares about your excuses. Nobody cares why you didn't do the job. They just care that you didn't do it. So it doesn't matter what happened to you. It really doesn't. Just make sure you do it and avoid all this uncomfortable situation of explaining yourself and apologizing. And it's just avoid that. Show must go on.
Some last tips, which are really, you know, just no-brainers, just things to have in mind all the time, is you need to look the part. I mean, if I get a rock gig, I'm not going in dressed as Bob Marley. You know, you need to look the part and make sure that even when you're not going to a gig, you always look good, like someone would want to hire you, because, you know, you may not look like a rocker, but if you look good and you get a gig as a rocker, the person at least knows that even if you end up not having the clothes for the gig, you're not going to look like a hobo. Basically.
You need to look good on stage.
Exactly. You need to look
Simply
good on stage.
that. You're an entertainer. So, you know, look good.
Extreme results don't come without extreme actions. So if you want to get an amazing gig, dress amazingly all the time. Also, you need to always have the appropriate gear. You know, I'm not going to have a jazz guitar for a rock gig. Again, you know, it's just know what you need and know what you don't, because physically it's a lot easier the less stuff you have to carry. So, you know, just get what you need, nothing you don't, and don't make a big deal out of gear. As guitar players, we love, oh dude, I just got this amp, it's amazing. Honestly, the vocalist you're working with couldn't care less about the new amp you got. So, you know, talk about it with your friends, with the bass player, who's also always a nice guy. But just, you know, just leave it. It's not really a bad thing, it's just something to keep in mind, because I do it way too much.
And I think also important to mention to know your place at the rehearsal.
Very much.
It's a big difference whether you play with your band or you are hired to play with somebody else's band. And a lot of artists, and me as an artist as well, I know that sometimes I want the song to be as I asked. And I will not appreciate if you, as a session musician, will start to say, oh no, that's not good, let's change that. You know, I don't like that part, so we're gonna do it differently. If I ask you to, so please do. But if I didn't, just play what I asked you to do, play the charts, play the parts, and know your place, basically,
exactly,
in where you hired. You can always, if you see that you have the place for that, and if you think you have maybe a better suggestion, there is a way to say that.
Of course.
But again, know the artist, because we are different people, and I'm cool with that. I'm cool with you coming and telling me, like, maybe we can try that, maybe, but not everybody are like that, and sometimes you can just fuck up the relationship with the artist.
Definitely.
Don't do that.
Yeah. If you really can't do the gig without changing something, don't do it like just finish a song. Oh yeah, I want to change the solo. I want a bigger solo. Don't do that. Just either go before the rehearsal or after the rehearsal personally to the artist, or to the MD, the musical director, if you have one. Or maybe to them both, which is amazing, because then you're not going behind anyone's back. You need to think a lot about social dynamics when you're in a group situation. Go to them and ask them, like, hey, I was listening to this song and I wondered, would you consider this idea I've had, or do you think that maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm tripping, but maybe I think this could work. What do you think, you know? Don't say like, I want to change this. It's like, you're always presenting something, and they can take it if they want, and just leave it if they don't. And you need to make sure that you don't put them in a position where saying no to the idea is saying no to you, because it's not personal, it's professional.
Yeah, don't start like to get offended or, you know, to be mad. It's just, you know.
It's not personal. It's not personal. It's just a job. It's a song. It's not about you, you know.
It's about a song. Yeah. And the artist that's hiring you.
Exactly. And another really important thing that sort of also is going to be a very big part in one of the future steps is it's important to not, it's really important to separate professional from personal, but it's also important to have some element of friendship in there. Like, you know, you don't want a guy that's going to be with you on stage, playing the music, reading the sheet, you know, like...
So you can see that.
Exactly.
You can see, if you go to a show and you look at a band, you can automatically see if there's a good chemistry with the band, or they just, like, you know, playing there and the bass player is looking on the wall and the singer doesn't even know, like, you know, it's like you can really see that. So it's really important, this friendship, this personal part of the band. It's super important because the audience see that.
The audience can feel it, and it's for guitar players especially, that we have our spaceship pedal boards on the ground. It's really easy, you know, you get caught up in your playing, you need to change pedals, you end up, you know, I remember when I was starting out, I had a gig that I was just looking down, and, you know, like, towards the second half, like the end of the gig, I looked up and I was like, well, wow, this is what the audience looks like tonight, you know? It's like I didn't even know what they looked like. And it's crazy, because that really does happen. And another example that's really good, there's a Brazilian guitar player who's kind of an Instagram, like, phenom these days. His name is Matheus Asaro. He also graduated MI. He got a gig with Tori Kelly, and today he plays with Jessie J. And he got hired because of his artistic uniqueness, but as a session musician. He's not recording with, I don't think he recorded with both of them actually, but he's a touring musician, and you can see the chemistry between him and Jessie J. There's a show, Jessie J on Pink Pop or something, you can see them playing. It's like, you know, I think she kneels down and he plays, or he kneels down while she's singing. And it's like, he's not just, you know, doing the gig and going home. He's giving 100%. It's not just the notes. It's the whole delivery. You have to look the part. You have to do everything. You know, it's not just playing the notes and getting out of it. It's a lot more than that. And you need to want to do it, or else it's just not going to work.
So now when we covered all these steps, which is pretty much simple and pretty much really core of what you need to do, Pedro is gonna give us some tips of how to maintain this thing and how to actually wrap it up and be as professional as possible while you doing all those stuff.
So the first thing is, if you need to quit a gig, don't ring them up the same day like, hey guys, I can't make it to rehearsal today because another gig is gonna pay me more. See ya. Don't do that. If you have another gig that you're gonna get, I don't know, that you want to replace, doesn't matter why, that's personal, that's, you know, I have no business in it, and neither does anyone. First thing you should do is complete everything you said you were going to. So like if you have one more gig with this artist and then you're free, just do the last gig. Just do it because it's in the contract, hopefully. You had one. You have an amazing friend that can do a contract for you. And after that, you go up to the person and say, hey, not after, actually, before that, you go up to the person and say, hey, after this gig, I don't know if you're expecting me to continue, but I can't, I have this other thing, whatever, you explain it to them. Or if you need to quit a gig that was ongoing, you find a way to terminate it amicably within the contract, and you find a replacement, or at least give the artist options for replacement. So if I'm working with Vika again, and I can't do the next gig or whatever, I know a couple names right off the top of my head that I can recommend her, like, hey, I can't do the gig, but I have a couple, you know, this guy plays guitar, this guy is that guy, you know. I can offer her some options to fill up my spot. She doesn't need to take them, but I cleaned up after my mess, you know?
And again, as soon as possible. As soon as you know that you can't perform the gig, please let me know. Let the artist know. I don't want to hear a day before a show, oh, I can't come. That's not gonna help me.
Yeah, and if that, I mean, you know, you need to be covered for all situations. So if that does happen, find someone and train them first. If it's like a month, it's like, yeah, I have a person. But if it's like this week and you have a gig, it's like, hey, I have this guy, I send him the songs, he's done, he's cool, you know, do it. And, you know, if you're gonna send people songs, ask them, can I send your song to this person? Just make sure you're not...
just talk.
Yeah. Exactly.
Just talk.
Just talk. It's fine. We're all people. So, tip number 2 is always be grateful to the gig you have, and don't act like a hot shot. Don't be like, I'm too good for this, I don't need it, whatever. If you have a gig, it can always go away. Always. The guy can ring you up tomorrow and say, hey man, so we played one weekend, but those other 3, the place closed down, I don't have any more money. Sorry, see ya. And then you're left with, you know, empty hands, empty stomach, no rent.
A big ego.
Yes, well, big shattered ego. But, you know, just be grateful and know that anything can happen. Make the most out of it and always be positive. Because if you get an amazing gig and you think, oh yeah, I got this amazing gig playing for, I don't know, Bruno Mars, but my part is this big and I only play 2 notes in one song, it's a gig, man. You're getting paid. You're playing with Bruno Mars, awesome stage, you're doing what you love for a living, just enjoy it.
Appreciate what you have, because this small gig with Bruno Mars can lead you to other big gigs.
Exactly.
Number 3.
So, we kind of talked about this already, but it's really important to stress it. You need to know your role. So if you were hired to be a session musician, don't act like the musical director. If you were hired to be in the band, don't act like a session musician and just play whatever you want and go away, or whatever the person told you and go away. If you're in the band, they want artistic and personal commitment. So you need to deliver what you're expected to.
Number 4.
Number 4 is also something we talked about already, but it's always give more. There was one session that I was called to that I was really fortunate to have. I'd recorded bass for this artist before, and then she asked me to record it in her producer's house, because before we had just recorded in the studio, just me and her. This time I went to record bass, and for some reason I had my guitar on me also. So while I was there, recording bass, all happy, I was like, I'm actually a guitar player, I'm just doing this right now. He was like, oh, really? And then I ended up recording for 2 more hours, guitars, electric and acoustic for the song, and I kind of became her guitar player after that. So, the more you can do, the more you can deliver, it's always great. Don't you think?
Yes. Bye!
Always remember to keep it professional. If you have a gig with a friend, you need to remember to separate. This is friendship, this is professional, this is the gig, and this is us having beers afterwards. It's completely different. And I had a gig with a very dear friend of mine, and it happened that artistically we just weren't compatible. We love each other, we love each other's music, but for that band, that specific environment, I wasn't the guy for the gig. So, we were thinking about it, we talked about it, and we just understood that that's what the fact was, and that's fine.
And you stayed a really good friend.
Exactly.
And he also recommended him about other guitar players that might be better for the gig.
Exactly.
Which is also amazing. It's not personal, it's very professional, and just keep that in mind.
Exactly. Don't have an ego. If you don't get the gig, make sure you let someone else have it, because...
Why not?
Yeah.
6.
Know your limits. It's really important that if you have 5 gigs because you followed all these awesome tips and tricks that we're giving you, if you have 5 gigs in a week, don't take a 6th, because you're not going to have time to learn the songs. You're not going to have, maybe the will to do it. You're going to be stressed. You're going to be thinking about all the other stuff you have to do. You need to count the money you're going to get. If you're going to get money, think about transportation. And if you go to a gig and you just look tired and you just look worn down, it's just annoying, and that's even without mentioning rehearsals, because if you have 5 gigs, you need to rehearse for all of them.
Yes, and if you need some help with schedule and everything, I have a great episode about time management, again, down below, you can check it out. And also, I have another episode with Jeff. Jeff was here. Jeff is a session musician, he's a bass player, and he was talking about all these rehearsals and how to maintain everything, so you can check it out as well below.
Yes, and he's a very good bass player. I played with him in 2 bands, and he's a prime example of all this. He always has a good face on, even when he was having a really hard time. And it's just
he's a great person to work with.
Yeah, exactly.
And he also needed to say no to a couple of bands because he just couldn't maintain more. So again, it's all professional.
It's not.
7.
Say yes to as many opportunities as you can, because while you need to know your limits, if you think you can do something else, first, again, talk to the person, explain them the situation, ask them, if you're comfortable with this, I would love to take your gig. And then do everything you can to take it, because like we said before, if you get a gig playing 2 notes for Bruno Mars, maybe you can get the gig as a full guitar player for, Jessie J or something.
Yeah, I think it's very connected to an ego. Mm-hmm. Don't have this big ego of like, but I'm so amazing, why am I getting like only 2 notes, Mm-hmm. You can never know where this gig can lead you. Some person might see you, other person can see you. Networking, it all leads to just one thing, like getting more gigs.
Exactly.
And all of that leads us to number 8, which is...
a personal favorite of mine. Number 8 is always remember to have a beginner's mind. And this is something that is very dear to my heart, and I want to not forget this for the rest of my life, because it doesn't matter how good you are, doesn't matter how many gigs you've had, how many gigs you will have, how many notes you've played, how many guitar tones you have, you always have something to learn. It's really important to always have the beginner's mind in every situation, because the expert has habits, the expert has traditions, the expert has all this backstory and all this ego and all this experience, and that puts you in a little box, and you start doing things the same way, and when someone asks you to do something else different, you can either get cocky and get hurt about it, or you can just do it differently and figure out, maybe you find out that this is a much better way to do it, and it's true now, it wasn't before, things change, and it just allows you easier to be happy that way.
it's very easy to make a mistake of thinking that you already know what people are telling you. And sometimes when a person says like, oh, let me show you that, and you kind of like already think you know that and you're not listening, you may miss some really important information and you look like a dick. But like, you can never know what a person can teach you. So don't be in this, in the state of mind that like, oh, I just, whatever, I know it. Pedro, thank you so much for coming here and telling us about all these important things, because for us it's really important to know, and I hope these tips helped you, because he is very professional and everything he's saying I can relate to and I can understand and I can learn as well. And as a thank you, I want to give you a work made for hire contract that you can use for your next sessions.
Oh yes.
To kind of like just set the details as we said before, and know everything that you need to know before you getting and accepting the gig.
Amazing.
So this is for you, from me. I was Vika. This was Pedro. Ah, nice. Music. Ciao, ciao.